Imagine this: 20,000 English soldiers, armored knights, marching columns, banners snapping in the wind, confident, unstoppable, certain of victory. And across the river, only 6,000 Scots, poorly equipped, many barefoot, led by men the English believed were nobodies. But on one narrow bridge, on one cold Scottish morning, the English would walk straight into a nightmare. A disaster so humiliating that it would echo through history. Before we begin, make sure to like, subscribe, and write in the comments, where are you watching from? It really helps the channel grow, and I'd love to know your country and city. The year is 1297. Scotland is bleeding. For months, English troops under King Edward V, the Hammer of the Scots, have crushed rebellions, burned villages, and forced Scottish nobles to submit. But rebellions don't die easily. They grow in the shadows, and in those shadows rises a name the English will soon fear: William Wallace. Not a king, not a noble, just a tall, fierce warrior with burning hatred for English rule and the courage to fight when others bowed. At his side stands Sir Andrew Moray, a skilled commander from the north. Together, they don't just want to fight. They want to outthink the English. And the English? They believe they're marching toward another easy victory. Their army, commanded by the wealthy Earl of Surrey and the arrogant Hugh de Cressingham, advances toward the town of Stirling. Near the town lies a river. Across the river, a narrow wooden bridge. That bridge will decide everything. The English commanders look across the water. They see the Scots on the hills, not charging, not attacking, simply waiting. To the English, it looks like fear. To Wallace, it is patience. His plan is simple and lethal. Let the English cross only a few at a time. The bridge is so narrow that horses and men can only cross in small groups, squeezed together, unable to maneuver. Once enough English are trapped on the Scottish side, the Scots will strike like a hammer. But inside the English camp, warnings are ignored. Some commanders suggest, find another crossing, build a ford. Force them into open battle. Cressingham laughs. Why waste time? Why fear rebels with barely any armor? Arrogance seals their fate. At dawn, the English begin crossing. Knights clatter onto the planks. Foot soldiers push behind them. The weight of armor makes the bridge groan. They move slowly, too slowly, and unaware of the jaws closing around them. On the hill, Wallace watches. Counting, not charging. Waiting. He knows there is one rule of war the English have forgotten. The battlefield is chosen by the clever, not the strong. As more English pour across, their line stretches, breaking into fragments. Those who reach the Scottish side think victory is close. They don't realize they are alone. Cut off, trapped, surrounded by marshland and river, with no room to turn their horses. Wallace turns to his men. The time has come. He lifts his sword, and the Scottish army begins to move. What happens next will turn the bridge at Stirling into a slaughterhouse and shake the English Empire to its core. When Wallace gives the signal, the Scottish lines surge forward, not wildly, not chaotically, but with cold precision. The English knights on the Scottish side finally understand what is happening. Too late, they try to form up, but the ground betrays them. The land near the river is soft, marshy, broken. Heavy war horses sink, foot soldiers stumble. Shields clash as men collide shoulder to shoulder with no space to maneuver. And then the first Scottish spears come down. Long, bristling lines at the fearsome Schiltron formations advance like walls of iron and wood. Spears bite into horses, pierce armor, drive men backwards into each other. Knights shout orders that cannot be heard. Trumpets blast. Confusion explodes. Those still crossing the bridge keep pushing forward. They don't see what's happening ahead, and their weight keeps jamming the crossing tighter and tighter. The English army is now trapped between three enemies: the Scots in front, the river beside them, and their own men crushed behind. Wallace has turned the bridge itself into a weapon. Up on the hill, Scottish archers and slingers rain death down. Stones crack helmets, arrows tear through tunics and faces. The English can neither shield themselves nor retreat. And retreat becomes impossible because panic spreads. Some English soldiers try to run back across the bridge, only to collide with those still marching forward. They push, they scream. The bridge sways. Men fall into the river, dragged down by the weight of their armor. They don't surface. The Scottish infantry crashes into the English ranks. The narrow ground means the knights cannot charge, cannot break through, cannot use their strength. All their training, all their power, counts for nothing in this strangling corridor of death. Wallace knew this. He was not fighting the English army. He was fighting their overconfidence. Meanwhile, on the far side of the river, The Earl of Surrey watches in disbelief. He sees banners disappearing, formations breaking, and the bridge clogged with terrified men. He hesitates. Should he commit more troops? If he sends more, they too will choke on the bridge and die. If he pulls back, the soldiers already across will be abandoned. His indecision is fatal. Hugh de Cressingham, furious and humiliated, demands that they keep pushing forward. "Crush them," he shouts. But nothing can be crushed, except the English themselves. The Scots push harder, their spears drive deeper, English lines collapse, knights fall and are trampled. The Scottish warriors are fighting for more than victory. They are fighting for burned homes, dead families, stolen freedom. Every thrust of the spear carries rage and memory. Soon, the trapped English realize the truth. They are no longer in a battle. They are in an execution. Many jump into the river, hoping to swim, but the current grabs them. Armor fills with water. Men sink silently while others scream their names. On the ridge, Wallace remains calm, eyes fixed, giving orders like a chess master closing the final moves. He doesn't rush, he doesn't chase glory. He simply tightens the trap. And then the moment arrives when the English force on the Scottish side ceases to be an army and becomes a broken mob. Their banners fall, their leaders disappear. Stirling Bridge, once a path to victory, has become the grave of England's pride, and the battle is only halfway done. The Scottish charge does not slow. Each step forward crushes the English deeper into panic, deeper into mud, deeper into the jaws of the trap Wallace designed. On the battlefield, sound becomes chaos, the cracking of shattered shields, the wet thud of spears, the roar of thousands of voices, anger, terror, prayer, curses, all colliding in the smoke-filled air. English knights try desperately to rally their men. They wave swords, scream orders, push soldiers into position, but every attempt to form ranks dissolves instantly, because the ground itself refuses to cooperate. Horses rear and crash backward, men slip beneath hooves. Bodies pile so thick that soldiers climb over corpses just to breathe. Wallace and Moray move along the lines, steady, deliberate. They don't waste men on reckless heroics. They drive the schiltrons forward like slow, crushing machines. The English realize the awful truth. Strength means nothing when you cannot move. At the bridge, the logjam becomes catastrophic. Fresh troops keep arriving, believing they are joining the fight, only to be trapped halfway across. A shove from behind, a slip, a broken plank, and suddenly entire sections of the bridge tilt. Men scream as they plunge into the river. The water swallows them almost instantly. Armor drags them down, shields twist their bodies. A few try to rip off helmets underwater, but the current is merciless. Above them, others cling to the bridge rails, fingers white with desperation. But they are kicked loose by the next wave of terrified soldiers. It is no longer command and strategy, it is raw survival. On the Scottish side, Wallace unleashes another phase of the plan. He orders his men to cut off the bridgehead, the narrow strip of ground where English troops exit the bridge. The Scots swing inward, slamming shut like a door. Now the English are split. One group stranded on the Scottish bank, being systematically destroyed. Another group stuck on the bridge, unable to advance or retreat, and the rest watching helplessly from the far shore. The Earl of Surrey finally understands the scale of disaster. He has lost control of the battle. He feels the weight of responsibility pressing on him like the armor he wears. If he charges across, he joins the slaughter. If he withdraws, he condemns thousands of his own men. He chooses the path every doomed commander eventually takes. He hesitates again. Cressingham rages, shouting that they must keep pressing, that honor demands it, that the rebels must be crushed. But it is no longer a question of honor. The English command has lost the most important weapon of war, time. Wallace senses weakness, his eyes narrow. He orders another forward surge. Scottish fighters roar as they push, stab, drag men from horses, and drive them into the mud. Battle axes fall like thunder. English shields splinter. Helmets ring like bells. The marsh becomes a charnel ground, soaked, trampled, unrecognizable. Then, at the height of the chaos, something symbolic happens. The English standard, the proud banner that represents command, unity, and confidence, topples and disappears into the mass of bodies. For an army, there is no clearer sign. The battle is lost. Men begin throwing away weapons in desperation. Others try to flee toward the river, toward the bridge, toward anywhere that isn't this suffocating death trap. But there is nowhere to go. The Scots close tighter. Their voices rise, not wild or reckless, but determined, burning with years of humiliation and rage. Each step forward feels like justice. And on the ridge, Wallace knows What began as rebellion is turning into legend. But he also knows one more thing, and it chills even him. Desperate enemies can still be dangerous, and a cornered army can do anything. The final act of Stirling Bridge is about to begin, and the cost will be terrible. The battlefield is now a storm of fear and fury. The English who remain on the Scottish bank realize the truth with horrifying clarity. No reinforcements are coming. No cavalry charge will rescue them. No commander will ride in like a hero. They have been left behind. Some fight with desperate bravery. Others drop their weapons and try to push back toward the bridge, only to be crushed beneath the press of bodies. Shouts turn into screams, and screams fade into silence. Wallace sees it all, and he does not relax. Victories are lost in moments of mercy, he knows. A trapped enemy can still claw like a wounded animal, so he tightens his plan. He orders his men to press toward the river, squeezing the English into a shrinking wedge. The Scots move like a tide, forcing their enemies into water, mud, and death. More English fall, dragged down by armor, sucked into the marsh, never to rise again. Among the Scots, something begins to shift. This is no longer only strategy, it is vengeance. Years of humiliation, extortion, and brutality explode in the hearts of warriors who once watched their homes burn. Blow after blow lands with emotion behind it. Rage, grief, memory. There is no retreat for the English now, only collapse. Across the river, the Earl of Surrey finally gives the order he dreaded: withdraw. The trumpets signal retreat, drums beat. Officers shout for the troops on the far bank to fall back and save themselves. But what about those trapped on the Scottish side? They are abandoned, sacrificed to buy time. When the Scots realize what is happening, a roar rises over the battlefield. Not a cheer, something darker. They advance like a wave. Cressingham, the man who mocked the Scots, who demanded the attack, who laughed at warnings and is caught in the crush. He tries to rally soldiers, swinging his sword wildly, refusing to accept reality. But reality finds him. He is surrounded, dragged down, and killed where he stands. His bright armor disappears beneath Scottish blades. His death becomes a symbol. Arrogance has paid its price. The English, still trapped on the bridge, panic completely. Men shove each other off the sides, choosing drowning over the spear. Others cling to the rails as the timbers shake, crack, and finally give way under the impossible weight. A section of the bridge collapses. Dozens vanish into the river. The current turns red, then brown again, swallowing everything. Wallace watches, not celebrating, not shouting, simply ensuring no gap opens, no English formation escapes. Moray, badly wounded yet still commanding, urges his men to keep discipline, not to break ranks, not to chase foolishly. Even in victory, leadership holds the army together. And slowly, painfully, the English resistance disintegrates. Knights surrender. Foot soldiers drop to their knees. Others try to crawl through reeds and mud, only to be overtaken. The cries grow weaker. Steel falls silent. By late afternoon, the battle is not a battle anymore. It is aftermath. Bodies lie twisted on both sides of the river. Banners float in the shallows. Horses stand motionless, riderless, eyes wide with fear. The air smells of smoke, water, and death. And yet, above it all, something else rises. For the first time in years, Scotland has hope. Word will spread. Villages will whisper the story. Campfires will glow with new confidence. And the legend of Wallace, once just a rebel, will now become the symbol of defiance. But every victory has a cost, and every legend carries a shadow, because what happens after Stirling Bridge, the revenge of the English crown, the pressure of leadership, and the fate of those who fought here, will shape the destiny of Scotland. The world has heard the thunder, now comes the storm. As the last pockets of English resistance crumble, silence slowly crawls back across the field. The noise fades, not suddenly, but like a storm drifting away. Shouts become murmurs, steel stops ringing. Only the river keeps moving, washing past the wreckage of pride, armor, and shattered ambitions. For the Scots, the realization comes gradually. They have done it. 6,000 men, outnumbered more than 3-1, have destroyed what was supposed to be an unstoppable army. Where others would have charged blindly, Wallace chose to think, and thinking changed history. But victory, as always, is complicated. Scottish warriors cheer, cry, and fall to their knees. Some stare quietly at the battlefield, struggling to believe what they're seeing. Others search for friends who will never answer again. Moray, wounded badly during the fighting, is carried from the field. His leadership had been vital, but his life now hangs in the balance. Wallace visits him briefly, a silent exchange between comrades who shared something far larger than glory. They know the truth. This win is enormous, but the war is not over. Across the river, the English retreat continues. Officers bark orders, trying to hold what remains of discipline together. Many soldiers do not look back. They cannot. The humiliation burns too deeply. Word spreads faster than any messenger. Villagers whisper, "Did you hear Wallace broke them?" In castles, nobles murmur nervously, "If the English can be beaten, what happens next?" And in England itself, word will soon reach King Edward, ruthless, brilliant, and utterly unforgiving. He will not tolerate rebellion. He will not forget defeat. Stirling Bridge is victory, but it is also a declaration. Scotland is no longer kneeling. Wallace steps onto the field, walking among the fallen. His face is unreadable. He does not bask in triumph. He understands something most commanders never learn. Winning a battle is easy. Carrying what comes after is not. Because victory brings responsibility. Responsibility brings enemies, and enemies bring consequences. Soon, Wallace will be named Guardian of Scotland, leading armies, managing rival clans, facing politics, betrayal, hunger, and fear. The English will return, stronger, more disciplined, furious. New battles will rise, some will be victories, others will be heartbreak. History knows how this story eventually ends. But on this day, this single day at Stirling Bridge, the message is carved forever into the memory of nations. Numbers alone do not decide wars. Terrain matters, strategy matters, courage matters, and sometimes a narrow bridge can break an empire. As night falls, torches flicker along the riverbank. The Scots bury their dead, tend to their wounded, and sit in silence by the flames. No songs, no feasts, just quiet pride and the knowledge that something impossible has been done. The legend of Stirling Bridge will travel through centuries, told in stories, echoed in books, reenacted in films, debated by historians. But beneath the myths and glory lies a simple truth. A people who refuse to surrender cannot be easily ruled. And for one unforgettable day in 1297, 6,000 Scots proved it to the world.